It's the first talk of this 5-day May 1985 retreat. Let's first say a few words about sitting during a talk. Please find the most comfortable position, cushion, chair or bench arrangement for listening to a talk. It's much easier to listen when there's not a lot of pain, or when there's no pain in the knees or back, ankles. Then the energy can gather and listen. Find out in the course of these 5 days which is the optimal position or chair. Then if there's pain in the knee or leg during the talk, you can change the position. But please do so quietly. So one doesn't disturb the people sitting around one. Talked about it yesterday that if it changes the leg very attentively, carefully, then whatever natural sound comes from the clothes or cracking in a joint comes out of silence, out of quietness, stillness, and does not disturb. If one does feel disturbed by the motion of one's neighbor, can one look at this feeling of disturbance, see the ingredients of it? Are there thoughts? He or she should be able to sit quietly, like me. It's usually more noise than what the person next to one does, because it is comparative. There's an element of annoyance in it, and that excites the whole body-mind. Talking about moving during a round of sitting, it's good if it's possible for sitting for whatever period here we've agreed on, 35 minutes, to sit without moving, which has nothing to do with an imposed discipline to discipline the body, but it offers an opportunity for real stillness for oneself and everyone, and to observe out of that stillness a pain which may arise or a cramp. Not that the pain is good for one or the cramp is a helpful thing to happen. It isn't. It's a cramp. It's a pain. And it's even not that word. It's, what is it? As it happens. Can one listen and attend to it so motionlessly quiet, without this habitual, deeply programmed impulse to do something about it? Everything that happens to us, inside or out, we habitually have to do something about it. This is how we've been trained and brought up, and train others. Never really being totally intimate and familiar with the disturbance that has come up. Wanting to do something about it before we're really in touch with what it is. Understand it superficially and deeply. So what is a pain or a cramp or a discomfort? If we don't know it, if we disregard all that we know about it from our past experiences, which are neatly stored up in the brain as memories, and tell us what it is and react to it and associate with other things, what is a discomfort if we don't know it? And sit there totally exposed with no defense, no resistance, not knowing what to do about it, and yet vulnerably attentive. Quietly, silently aware. Just like listening there. Do something about that. Can there be this openness of listening without knowing? The same way can one listen to inner turmoil, discomfort, pain, fear, without knowing what to do about it. Just being that. With a mind that does not habitually escape into something else. Setting the escape, of course, is fantasy. Thoughts, remembrances, or projecting the future. Creating time. Can there be awareness that there's fantasy going on? Away from the discomfort, or whatever it is that one is trying to get away from. And then just being here. Not really knowing what that means, because it's not a concept. I was also going to say a few words about listening to a talk. We hinted at it yesterday. Talk like this is not a lecture. A body of information to be gathered and stored, accumulated. I'm not trying to persuade or convince anybody of anything. Things are pointed out, but what is important are not the words which I use. They are never completely adequate. If you don't understand the words that I use, please bring it up in a meeting. Say, what did you mean by that? I don't really understand what you mean by that word. Maybe we can change that word. Because the word is not important, but to see what the words are pointing at or where they're coming from for oneself. That's what is important. To see whether it's actually so or not so. To see that for oneself. If that takes place, then the words and the one who speaks the words are unimportant. Do you see that? To us, normally the way we are raised, particularly religiously, words are very important. They are quoted, recited in very special settings. Or a little child gets a feel of something there, which is not like everyday talk or action. But it's important is to see what does this person really mean, not just verbally, intellectually, but profoundly. And then maybe if there is an insight, one sees it clearly, or there is clear seeing, because that is it. Then not to make these words important, and the person who spoke them. That's the track onto which we get normally, since thousands of years, worshipping words and people who spoke them, rather than seeing for oneself, freshly, newly, alive. To quote someone else is meaningless if one doesn't understand. If there's understanding, the words one uses are secondary and flexibly open to change. So how does one listen here to talk? Is there this openness of receiving without believing? Because nothing needs to be believed if there is understanding. When you see a flower in front of you, you don't have to believe in it. It's there. You see the mist in the hills, you don't have to believe that there's fog. It's there. Sun streaming through the window, do you have to believe in the sun? Or can you see it, feel it, smell it, when it warms up the earth? But when we don't understand, when we're insecure and afraid, then we start believing in someone else. That's where the trouble starts. One's own faculties to search, probe, question, understand, they atrophy. And one repeats and follows someone else. Who may not understand either. So can there be an awakening of this yearning, this urge to understand and see and look and question for oneself? Not accept anything, doubt everything. I don't mean become a cynic. It's just a comforting role to occupy. But to see how much we're stuck in taking things for granted, accepting things that we've never questioned. never deeply wondered about. Why do I think this way? How do I think? Where do my thoughts come from? Are they really my thoughts? Or have stuff poured in from teachers, parents, priests, educators, books? Now I repeat, adjust without understanding. So to be careful not to make words that are spoken here into something, but to just look for oneself and one can see what they point at. Not comparing this to some other talk one has heard. Then the mind is occupied, which it likes to be. The mind likes to be occupied all the time with something. There's a real hesitancy or dread of being unoccupied. I was going to talk this morning about the difference between concentrating and attending. To look at both of those mental activities, and if they are mental activities. Many of us have been trained in concentration. I'm not talking right now about the concentration of an athlete, a gymnast, a tremendous concentration. If there's a distraction going on, one will fall off the bar. Or coming down, like these skiers do, almost a vertical slope, icy, rutty. One can see when there's a close-up at the starting gate, there's this tremendous concentration in the face and the body. It's just ready to go and then going. But then what happens when after slipping through the final gate, the first look is up to the scoring board. How did I do? Did I do better than the one before me? Or worse? And I get the gold medal. There's an underlying motive to do well, to do the best, to succeed, to get there, to arrive, obtain a prize. And that motive fuels and makes possible this tremendous concentration. There may be other ingredients in it, being just conditioned to do it, being trained maybe since one has been a little child, or wanting to prove oneself to one's parents or whoever, wanting to overcome a handicap, and putting all one's concentration, proving oneself that one is not handicapped. All of this generating tremendous energy to achieve on the very narrow base of existence. Because anything that distracts from this is excluded, avoided, suppressed, ignored, for the sake of this one-pointed, or whatever you want to call it, concentration. And while a spiritual practice runs along the same track, concentrating the mind in order to get something. Stability, tranquility, peace, enlightenment. Climbing up the hierarchical ladder. Officers or priests of the establishment, through concentrating and doing well in one's practice. I want to talk about this word practice later on. Having read enlightenment stories and wanting that thing more than anything else. Nothing else has really satisfied. And I may have achieved in business or has had children, but it's just still something, feeling of lack. So then hearing about the summum bonum, the enlightenment, and wanting that to solve one's feeling of whatever, insufficiency, lack, discontent, and then submitting to practices to concentrate the mind, suppress thought, to get there, wherever that may be. This kind of working, concentrating, is, as you can look and test for yourself, is based on a motive, wanting something and excluding, avoiding, ignoring, calling things distractions which make the mind wander away from its focus of practice. Whatever that may be, a syllable, a sentence, a concept, some physical activity like breathing, focusing on the tip of the nose, and as many different concentration practices as there are schools of meditation practice. And this concentration, as we said before, can generate tremendous energies which seem to be an indication of success. I remember long before getting into this kind of work to having read an Indian legend, an ancient Indian legend, where a demon who was the antagonist of the gods decided to submit to concentrative practices for 60 kalpas, which is supposed to be an unimaginable number of years. Hundreds and thousands and billions of years he submitted to concentrative practices in order to obtain the energy to kill the gods. one God was left who then did him in. But what the legend seemed to point at is, like everything that the human mind has invented, it can be subverted toward fighting someone else, killing someone else, or killing oneself, which is the same thing, because we're not separate from one another. If I hurt you, I hurt myself. If I arm against another country, I endanger myself. I think that's clear to everyone. Unfortunately, it's not clear to everyone. So what is attention, or awareness that we talk about so much? Awareness, in the sense that it is, this word is used here, is not exclusive. We're talking about the difference between concentration and awareness. I will not go back to what was said about concentration. There are 2 tapes running here. Maybe who wants to hear it again can borrow the tape from the people who are taping. What is awareness was our last question. Let's start out from not knowing what it is, because one already has all kinds of ideas about what awareness is, or at least should be. Awareness is one is sitting, listening, attending. There's no exclusivity. Whatever is there is in awareness. It's attended to, listened to, or felt, seen. It's not judgmental, saying this is good, this I will attend to, this I shouldn't see. It's ugly, it's awful, embarrassing. To see that, how the mind immediately judges and selects. To see that, to become aware of that, so that every minute motion of the mind is exposed, including the feelings that go with it of either embarrassment or anger, sorrow. To let that awareness embrace it all. Without, I don't mean this in a sentimental sense, but actually having the space for the whole thing. Or letting there be space for everything that occurs to be seen, to be lit up with attention, even if it's the most disgusting thing that one could think of. Entering the mind, to see it and let the seeing take care of it. Usually when something is completely seen, non-judgmentally, non-reactively, it drops. But if one thinks it's terrific or awful, then something is made of it and the mind starts spinning things around it. Awareness, the kind we're talking about here, has no goal. It's easily said. But one has to detect all the gross and subtle goals that may be there. All right, I'll try to practice this awareness, hoping that that will get me someplace. That's motive, that's thinking. Establishing a goal and trying to use awareness to obtain something for oneself. Can that come into awareness? That whole process which was just described. How can I get that awareness? What will bring it about? Is there a method? Is there something I can do to get it? All of these thoughts are not awareness. They are habitual ways of proceeding. Can one become aware of that? The next thought may be, well, all right, what do I do with that? Nothing. Nothing needs to be done. It needs to be seen. If we don't see it, it runs us. And with that, we run into each other. Because everybody wants something for himself or herself. And that is how collision is created, occurs, on the small level and on the global level. We'll get to that another time. You may say, after working with this, looking at my goodness, it's impossible to be attentive. Thoughts constantly crossing the mind. I wouldn't have any conclusion about it, what's possible and what's not possible, but be open to questioning. What is awareness without judgment? Without wanting, without expecting. But not trying to get rid of wanting, trying to get rid of expecting, but illuminate with awareness. Yeah, there it is. Try to jump over this stuff and get to the end product. There's no end product. There's only what's going on this instant. And if it is a mind full of expectation, can that be seen in its rawness, nakedness, without justifying, vilifying, identifying whether this is my unimproved or unadvanced mind. If I was a little bit more advanced, practice another 10 years, then maybe I won't be like that anymore. It's all irrelevant thought, away from what's actually going on this instant. What is it? attention or awareness. There's nothing going on. Maybe instance of that, or we're not measuring it with a stopwatch. And then what happens? A moment of nothing going on, nothing to lay one's hands on. Does one give it a name? There's nothing. And with that comes a scary feeling, because when it's named, one wants something, wants to have something or be something. So then, is there the image, oh, I'm now nothing. That's again an idea to fill the mind with something. All the words we've spoken about emptiness. Fill the mind. But what is an empty mind? Empty of judgment, of expectation, of wanting to be something or somebody, or wanting to have something or somebody to lean on. If it happens, will one bear with the anxiety if it comes up? Not call it anxiety, just let there be awareness. Without doing something about anything. In this, the energies may gather in attending without doing. There's an interesting dialogue that took place sometime in the past. You may have heard it, but I'll mention it again. Where an ordinary person comes to a Zen teacher and asks him, would he please write down for him the highest principles of truth? And this particular person, who must have just been writing or drawing, just writes the word attention on a piece of paper. And the questioner says, is that all? Can't you add a little more? One can really put oneself into this person, can't one? Coming to a famous teacher and wanting something in writing that one can frame and hang on the wall, read every day, morning and night, show one's children. One has any. And find inspiration by repeatedly reading what the master or whoever has written down. And here, all that is written down is this word attention. It's not very satisfactory, is it? For someone who expects to hear the highest principle of truth. I don't remember verbatim what the man asked for, but it was something like that. The real thing. Oh, he didn't ask for the real thing, he asked for the highest principle, maxim. And then the disappointment. Not worth the money to frame this work. Can't you add a little more? Something I can take a hold of? And this particular teacher writes the word twice. Attention, attention. How would you feel? Come there, politely ask for something, and what you get is not satisfactory, and you ask for a little bit more, and you get the same. What looks the same? Would you feel annoyed? Maybe embarrassed, or your leg is being pulled? So the man gets a little irritated and says, I don't really see anything very profound in what you've written. He gets a little aggressive. I thought you were a great spiritual master, and is that all you can produce or give me? It's not very profound. When one feels the closeness of the person and the attachment to words, a real opaqueness within. Not watching the irritation, the anger, the greed for more, the wanting. All of that. So worthy of looking, of seeing, of attending to. So here, the man writes it down for a third time, 3 times in a row. Attention, attention, attention. Watch, look, attend, listen to yourself, listen to your words, to all the motives that are bubbling up, all the feelings and emotions that are connected with, and the expectation of this person delivering something to you. Can't you see it? At this point, the man says, what is this attention anyway? And the answer is attention is attention. Meaning, the word is not the real thing. So then what's the real thing? Can there be this openness without knowing? didn't say you should have that, or it should be there. It's a question. And let's not answer it, but wonder and listen. Without any conclusions. I was also going to say something about at times walking around in this room. People sometimes wonder, what is she doing? Why is she doing it? Maybe I should first say what I'm not doing it for. It's not to look at people's postures. To me, posture is secondary. Or it's not important. Sometimes someone will say, could you, in coming by, look at my posture and straighten it up? But people who have observed the posture and the straightening up process have also reported to me that, in a way, the straightening up has a certain quality of violence, because the posture in which
This is the end of the tape of the first day of the May 1985 retreat held in Olema, California.